Listen, the world would like you to become a high value cog. Nice resume, perfect LinkedIn headshot, just enough personality to be charming. At fundraisers and invisible at funerals. If you've ever smiled politely while your parents explain why you're not trying hard enough, while secretly planning an escape route to do literally anything else, congratulations, you're in the exhibit. Now, today's episode is for anyone who feels like they were auditioned into someone else's life. We're going dark, we're going funny, and we're going clinical because becoming someone who you weren't meant to be is surprisingly scientific form of self-abuse. Now, stay with me. I'll give you one precise step-by-step plan at the end to rip the umbilical cord and build the life you actually want. No, really. I'll show you how. Here's the deal. We'll do three things. Expose the transactional parent-teen economy that basically thrives in places like private schools and rich suburbs. You know what I'm talking about. The whole you'll do this and I'll get FaceTime barter system, right? Number two, I'm going to explain why being someone else wrecks your mental health and your future success with research. And number three, I'm going to give you the tactical one-page plan to find your values, test your real interests, and start building an authentic life that your future self will high-five the hell out of. Spoiler, passion beats polish consistently. Science says so, and I'm going to prove it, baby. You know the type. The almond mom, perfect hair, gluten-free casserole, and the belief her child is a walking trophy case. You've seen them at bake sales and parent-teacher mixers quietly trading college counselor numbers like stock tips. This is concerted cultivation. Parents actively stage manage childhood, lessons, tutors, clubs to produce a kid who's flawless on an application form, but probably going crazy on the inside. And that brings us to Annette Lareau. Lareau coined the term concerted cultivation to describe this middle, sort of upper class parenting pattern, right? Where childhood becomes a carefully curated product, the kids get a resume before they get to recess, right? And I'm sorry, but that's a choice and it shapes identity. And this is all from the American Sociological Association. And let's be honest, there's also these people called the helicopter parents, right? The person who's like emotionally and logistically hovering, intercepting every sort of minor failure, sculpting outcomes for their kids, harassing their teachers, making sure their essay is just perfect. You know the types. And there's actually a validated construct for this. Padilla and Walker and colleagues, they basically formalize measures of helicopter parenting and found it's distinct from other parental control styles. The result? These kids feel overprotected, emerging adults who often lacked self-efficacy. You know, that ability to do things and believe in your ability. And no, this does not make love stronger. In fact, they did this 2024 meta-analysis of basically like overparenting, right? And they found consistent links with higher internalizing symptoms like anxiety and depression with the kids, right? They had a lower self-efficacy. They didn't believe in their abilities and worse academic self-regulation. They cheated, they were doing drugs like Adderall to stay focused. In short, smothering a kid's ability to fail is a long game that loses. You're not helping them. So look, when parents start to treat their kids as a transaction, whether it be in private or public school, right? You go to this camp, you get in there, we make vintage social capital, right? This identity becomes a ledger item. That's the problem. Identity is not a line on a balance sheet. It's an inner orientation, and forcing identity destroys the person's autonomy. Now, Why does identity matter? It matters because of things called autonomy and competence and relatedness, right? There's this thing called the self determination theory, right? So let's get scientific. It's not boring. Self determination theory by Dishi and Ryan identify three psychological needs: autonomy, you choose; competence, you can do it; and relatedness, you belong. When parents micromanage, they throttle autonomy. You stop choosing, you perform. You become what gets liked rather than what you actually are. SDT shows that when those needs are met, people are more intrinsically motivated, happier, persistent in life. And when they're not, you'll feel hollow, over apologetic for things you were never even asked to do. That's basic human firmware. Now, the long version: if your main motivation is external rewards like your parents, approval, or, maybe earn some money for your grades, right? Trophies, as in sporting events, a braggy school crest, you'll chase that and lose the intrinsic stuff that actually holds real meaning. Guess what longevity and durable success require? The intrinsic stuff. It's messy, it's slow, but it is shockingly resilient. Now, there are some dangers here, right? Being someone that you're not. Pretending is a pathology in business casual. I mean, the authenticity literature, right? Books on being yourself, it's mercilessly clear. People who live authentically, who act in ways consistent with their true values and feel low self-alienation, they score higher on life satisfaction and lower on depression. Wood, Lindley, and Maltby and others developed this authenticity scale, and they found that authentic living predicts better well-being. Goldman and Kernis and several meta-analyses back that up. Authenticity equals healthier psychological functioning. So the whole be who they want you to be model is literally a mental health hazard. It's a red flag. And parents, if you're doing this to your kids, you got to stop. You want to make an automaton or a healthy adult who is ready to tackle the world. Now, translation for the people raised to be trophies: you trade a stable external signal like my child got into X for internal instability. You look successful on paper and miserable at 3 a.m. That's not irony. It's a clinical finding. Now, if you've ever been sold the grind equals meaning con, shut it down. Positive psychology gives us a much better map, right? Seligman's PERMA model: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, accomplishment. These show that purpose and engagement, not bank account flexing, predict flourishing. Flow research from Csikszentmihalyi shows that people experience the deepest satisfaction when they're challenged in areas that fit their skills. That sweet spot, we call this flow. You want purpose and flow, not burnout chic, believe me. Yeah, money helps. So does a sense of meaning. Pick your metrics. I choose meaning every day of the week. And objective studies back this. Self-concordant goals, goals that align with your inner interests and values, they predict persistent attainment and greater long-term well-being. Sheldon and Elliott called this self-concordance. It matters more than prestige alone. Now, what bothers me the most about this is people that suffer, right? The paradox between being in a high pressure sort of school, having wealth and feeling anxiety all the time. Because here's the punchline: affluent kids in high pressure schools often have the worst of both worlds. They get expert tutors, they get manicured resumes, and a crushing expectation to be remarkable. And LaRoe's concerted cultivation describes parents who attempt to manufacture advantage, and it comes with a psychological cost: overscheduling, normative hyperachievement, identity confusion. In other words, you get everything and you feel like nothing. Now, multiple studies tie academic pressure and parental expectations to rising stress and anxiety among teens, especially where social status and college admissions are gladiatorial. Right? Chronic pressure beats down the sense of agency, and agency is the soil where identity sprouts. You want proof? Look no further than Harvard, right? They put some pieces out about admissions and the anxiety around it, right? There's also some data showing academic pressure correlates with teen stress, unhealthy coping, and sometimes suicide. This is serious stuff, folks. Let people be themselves. It doesn't always need to be a transaction. And then you've got stuff like the legacy admissions and status and parental delusion, right? I mean, we haven't even really touched the Hunger Games of college admissions yet. If you're in a private school or honestly, even a public school with enough AP classes to power a small nation, you know the pressure I'm talking about. There is a whole ecosystem built around it. ACT tutors who make more per hour than neurosurgeons, essay coaches who don't write the essay for you, wink, wink, parents who behave like unpaid brand managers trying to negotiate their kids' entry into a prestige club. Studies show that high achieving school cultures, especially affluent ones, correlates with significantly higher levels of anxiety, depression, substance use, perfectionism. I mean, Luther's research on affluence pressure basically found that rich kids are sometimes psychologically worse off than kids in poverty because the pressure cooker never ends, it never cools down. And legacy? Legacy is the psychological version of you owe me for giving birth to you. It's not framed that way, but emotionally, it lands exactly like that. Your father went to Dartmouth. Your grandmother was the president of Kappa Pi Omega. Your cousin was the vice chair of the philanthropy committee. Bless her heart. Cool. And how does that help me decide who the hell I am? Look, legacy admissions are on the decline since Harvard's lawsuit, right? Parents know it. And it makes them even more frantic, honestly, because for them, right, your admission just isn't your future. It's their past trying desperately to reproduce itself. I mean, they are living vicariously for you, my dudes. Research from the Journal of Adolescent Research shows that when parents tie their identity to their child's performance, the child's expectations and experiences are negative. The child experiences higher anxiety, lower autonomy, and more identity confusion. Woo! The trifecta of crazy. Suddenly, you're not applying to college, you're auditioning for the role of person my parents can show off. And don't even get me started on the sorority lineage pressure, right? Greek life, legacy culture. I mean, this is a multi-generational pyramid scheme of self-esteem, if you ask me. If your mom was an alpha, beta, or panda bear, or whatever, suddenly your entire worth gets funneled into whether you'll be accepted into the same sisterhood of blondes, brunettes, and identical Instagram grids. I mean, how many pictures do you have to show you and your bestie holding each other's waist, looking at each other, ladies? I mean, the psychology is simple. Families want continuity. Parents want familiarity. They want social proof that their choices were correct. And they want you to validate them. But continuity is not identity. Legacy is not destiny. And a parent's nostalgia is not your career plan. Unless you want it to be. And if you want it to be, great. Make mom and pa happy, and you're happy too. All right. So our next emerging adulthood, that concept we talked about earlier, it tells us that in young adulthood, right, that is the explicit time where you're supposed to sort of explore this identity. Your 20s are your try stuff years, right? But What happens when identity was outsourced to your parents? Emerging adulthood becomes recovery adulthood. You have to unlearn the scripts. Arnett's theory explains why this decade is crucial for self definition and why interference during adolescence makes that process harder. So, what normally would be exploration, internships, bad relationships, weird crap that go on at 2 a.m. projects, they get pressure washed into a neat portfolio. No wonder your soul is so dang itchy. You've been repressed. You're a mini me, and you hate it. Now, the costs, right? Mental health, decision paralysis, lack of flow. Let's be frank, being someone else increases depression, anxiety, emptiness. A recent meta analysis on overparenting show higher internalizing symptoms. Other studies link perfectionist parental expectations to teen mental health. Especially when in kids internalize the pressure, you wind up with low self-efficacy. You can't believe you can do the hard thing, right? Decision paralysis. Everything looks risky because you never failed safely before. And an inability to reach flow because you're never choosing your own challenges. That's a recipe for chronic dissatisfaction. And while social climbers sashay across Instagram with their curated trophies, right, they're often the exact people doing the slow motion emotional vanishing act. Miserable, but well photographed. Terrible at self regulation, but looks great on the filter. Let's laugh at them and then learn from their mistakes. There's another layer to all of this, right? When parents make your college or sorority choice part of the family brand, you lose something crucial: the psychological permission to explore. Now, research from the APA, right, the American Psychological Association, they show that adolescents under heavy parental academic expectations are more likely to experience what's called foreclosed identity. Now, that means you commit to roles and goals you never explored. Identity foreclosure is like fast forwarding through character development and landing on a job, a major, a fraternity, a lifestyle that someone else picked because it made them feel safe. And it's not just emotional. Biological stress markers, cortisol spikes, sleep disruption, they show up in teens during admission seasons at levels really similar to like adults going through layoffs. Imagine that. You're 17 and your nervous system is responding to the Common App like it's a corporate restructuring. But parents don't see cortisol. They see the bumper sticker. They see the merch. They see the Instagram caption. They see prestige. And prestige is the family currency. But prestige is not a personality trait. And if your life is built on their nostalgia and their status anxiety, you're not building a life. You're building a marketing brochure. All right. So let's zoom out on all of this, right? The legacy pressure, the admissions theater, the sorority lineage, right? The carefully curated resume since age 9, right? It's part of what sociologists call social reproduction. Parents don't mean to do it maliciously. They're terrified of downward mobility, right? They want to pass on their class status, their connections, their comfort, right? And they're told the way to do this is to shove their kid through the same narrow pipeline they went through. Or even worse, they didn't get all those advantages, right? And so now they're really going to make you work for them. The world has changed, right? The economic landscape has changed. Careers changed. College benefits equations changed. Meanwhile, the psychological cost skyrocketed. A 2023 study from the Journal of Youth and Adolescence found that teens in high-status schools face significantly higher rates of anxiety, substance misuse and abuse, and burnout because of the chronic, parent-driven achievement pressure Congratulations, you graduated high school only to drop out of college. Now, it's not that parents want to crush your identity. They don't. They love you most of the time, right? I mean, some don't probably. Some of you probably can't be loved. I kid. But what they're trying to do is guarantee outcomes in a world where outcomes are no longer guaranteed. It's understandable. I'm a parent. I get it. But here's the twist: the strongest predictor of long term adult success isn't prestige, it's autonomy, the ability to self direct consistently. Every major longitudinal study, from self determination to career development psychology, shows the same thing. Being allowed to choose your path beats being forced into the right path. That's why you have to claim your identity back, politely if you can, forcefully if you must. Okay, what is the positive path? What is the rescue mission, if you will, right? Science gives us a leaky but usable lifeboat, and it's called autonomy support, right? Where parents and mentors who support choice, SDT again, right, fosters motivation and well-being. You want autonomy scaffolding, right? Small decisions, then bigger ones. Build up. Let your children make a small choice when they're a little guy, right? And then as they get a little bit older, you have them sort of like they expand on that choice, and it keeps going until they're making big choices and they're happy with their self, and they feel very, very confident in their self-efficacy. You also have what are called self-concordant goals. Pick goals that feel right because they match your interest and values, not because they look good on paper. Self-concordance predicts persistence, happiness, emotional regulation. Pick self-concordant goals, friends. We also have this thing, called authentic living, right? Live in line with your values. And this helps to correlate with life satisfaction, right? Authenticity research shows that if you do less pretending, you're happier with your life. Flow, engagement, find activities that balance challenge and skill for meaning and deep satisfaction, right? Challenge yourself a bit. Invest time in them. Learn something new. But again, the idea is that you're challenging yourself. It's okay to fall. You're not failing. You're getting back up. You're trying something else. And this is why it's so important for little kids to be given the opportunity to fail and to do things on their own. They realize it's not life crushing. It's not the end of the world. And then there's the perma-check, aim for positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meanings, and accomplishment. If your life lacks any of these, you're building a trophy shelf, not a life. Get correct. These aren't woo steps. They are empirically supported levers. Use them. You're welcome. All right, everybody. You ready to break the cord? Here's a one-page plan. Do this in the order that I give you. Do it weekly. It's brutal and liberating. Step 1, cut the noise. 1 week, minimalist audit. For 7 days, log everything you do, why you did it, who asked and who benefits, how it felt on a score of 1 to 10, right? And this will be your internal satisfaction scale. No judgment, just data. If 80% of your hours are for other people's metrics, flag that. Step 2, value clarification. 2 sessions, 1 hour each. Use the 5 why method, right? For like 10 candidate values. Use, for example, why do I want to study law? Keep asking why until you hit a core feeling. Pare down to 3 values that feel like yours, not yours plus parental approval, just yours. Step 3, micro experiments. This takes about 4 weeks, right? You pick 3 low-cost, high-info experiments aligned with your values. So like an example might be, if you value creativity, teach a 1-hour workshop, build a tiny portfolio project, or join a weekend maker meetup. If you value helping, do a month of tutoring. Go out and plant some trees. Each experiment lasts 1 weekend or 3 sessions. Measure your engagement, measure your flow, and measure your joy. Step 4 is going to be the self-concordance check, right? End of week 4. Rate each experiment for things like intrinsic interest, felt energy during the task, desire to continue. If you're investing energy voluntarily and it feels aligned, that's a winner. This is Sheldon and Elliott's self-concordance applied. Step 5, boundary reset talk. One conversation. Schedule one calm conversation with your parents. I appreciate what you've done. I'm trying a path that might look a little different from what you want for me. I need your emotional support, not project management. Use I statements. Expect pushback. Set the perimeter. If necessary, schedule future check-ins to reassure them without surrendering your process. Now, step 6, you ritualize, right? And this is ongoing. Twice a month, run a 2-hour checkout, right? Are my actions moving me toward the values I chose? Adjust experiments. Keep only what sparks engagement and meaning. That's the playbook. It's grounded in SDT, self-concordance, and flow. It's rigorous, it's low waste, and it's painfully real. You need to try it, and you need to try it today. Start the process. Get a hold of your own identity and be who you want to be. All right, let me give you a quick parent tactical brief. Parents love certainty, right? More than gasoline. Your decisions threaten their predictive model, right? Expect a little bit of drama. Expect a lot of drama. Do not respond with fury. The goal is to reduce reactivity. I mean, the whole goal here is to show your parents that you have different values. You want to make something of yourself. If you fly off the handle and react in a way they think a child would react, then they're not going to let up. Show some maturity, right? And stand your ground. Here's a tactical script you can use, all right? Here's a tactical script you can use. The parent says something like, but you studied X because it pays. I know why that made sense. I'm grateful. Right now, I'm testing Z because it fits my values. It fits who I want to be now. And I'll keep you posting all of the tangible milestones every couple months. I'm going to keep you guys in the loop, and I want your support. That simple line honors them, right? It sets a boundary, and it creates a predictable update rhythm that they can tolerate, right? They want to be a part of your life. They love you. They just don't know how to show it sometimes, right? It also takes away the whole I'm being ignored fuel. If they escalate, repeat calmly or pause the conversation. This is autonomy support in practice. You state your choice. You keep the relationship intact and you make your independence predictable. Legacy breaking is emotional. It's not just logistical. When you break from a family legacy, it's not just a decision, right? It's a tiny emotional earthquake. They're not just worried you'll pick the wrong college. They're worried you're picking the wrong life because your life reflects their parenting. That's why you need compassion and clarity, boundaries, softness. You're not rejecting them. You're rejecting the map that they laid out for you. That's allowed. It's your life. And while you're doing all of this, by the way, can we just roast the social climbers for a second? I mean, you know these people, the people who act like relationship or networking events, hobbies or resume padding, right? They lecture you about strategic friendships and leveraged brunches while quietly hollowing out a life that looks great on a placard and feels like packing peanuts inside. Tonally, playful. Practically, scary. Scientifically, we just cited evidence that inauthentic living lowers well-being. So yes, laugh at the influencer who sells a life reset app and then cries into their sponsored almond milk, but use them as an anti-model. All right, guys, here's the honest truth that nobody soft sells. Identity is not a luxury. It's a survival system. If you live by someone else's script, you will be productive. You will be admired occasionally and quietly miserable. If you choose your values, test them, build your life around them, not because someone will clap, but because you get resilience. You get flow and meaning and a version of success that doesn't hollow you out. That's the trade I made a long time ago. And you should decide what trade you're willing to take yourself. It's not easy. It takes strength and conviction. So cut the cord where you need to. Try a weird hobby. Fail spectacularly, baby. Come on. And then pick the parts of life that make you glow. Come back and tell me what you tried. Or bring your parent to the next episode and we'll give them a sponsorship form and a reality check. I'm Mike. This is Planting Thoughts. And if you like this one, share it with the person your parents want you to be. Let's make them jealous of who you actually became.